My name is Ryan. Thanks for joining us on this Advent evening. For those of you who may not know, Advent is a term for the season of the church kind of leading up to Christmas. It's about a month leading up to Christmas where the church unpacks what's called the Advent of Jesus. And Advent is, it's a fancy Latin word that just means coming. Sideris is actually also a fancy Latin word. If you want to learn more about that, go to the website. It's all in there. But it's a fancy Latin word that it means coming. And so this is the season where the church traditionally and historically and globally unpacks the coming of the Hebrew Messiah, Jesus Christ. That is God in the flesh, light of the world. And what we discover about this Messiah is that God had been planning to come. He had been planning a visit for a long time, actually hundreds and hundreds of years before. About 700 years before, there was this guy named Isaiah. He was in Israel, and he was a prophet in Israel. And I wanted to start here with the Advent story because Isaiah, what his job was to bring the word of God that he received from God down to the people of God. And this word of God, it could be, most of it was actually God's kind of evaluation of how the nation of Israel was doing at the time. And there's some hard things, and some things they were doing good, and some things they were doing not so good. But part of these words that he would bring down every now and then was actually more of like a forward-looking of God saying, this is coming. This is coming down the pipe for you. I want you to write it down so when it happens, you can know that this is from me, that I'm the one doing this. And so I wanted to start with one of those promises. It's a very popular Advent text, read around Christmas. You may have heard it before if you have leaned into church and messages like this during Christmas. And it's from Isaiah chapter 9. And in my Bible, it's titled The Birth of the Prince of Peace. All right, so it goes like this. We're going to put it on the screen behind me. Isaiah starts with, "Nevertheless, the gloom of the distressed land will not be like that of the former times." So Israel had been through some difficult times where he allowed them to be humbled and conquered by other nations. And Isaiah is saying, fortunes are going to change. Okay, it will not be like that of former times when he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. These are little tribal sections in Israel. But in the future, he will bring honor to the way of the sea, to the land east of the Jordan, and to Galilee of the nations. And reading on this side of the life of Jesus Christ, we know those were his stomping grounds. Okay, this is kind of where he lived and operated from in his ministry. Now, this is what Isaiah says God says is coming, starting in verse 2. "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. A light has dawned on those living in the land of darkness." We have light coming into darkness. "You have enlarged the nation and increased its joy as a result." It's kind of picturing what it looks like after this light has come into the nation. "The people have rejoiced before you as they rejoice at harvest time, as they rejoice when dividing spoils. For you have shattered their oppressive yoke and the rod on their shoulders and the staff of their oppressor, just as you did on the day of Midian. For every trampling boot of battle and bloody garments of war will be burned as fuel for the fire." War is going to be no more when this light comes. "For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will be on his shoulders." This is that Messiah figure that they're waiting for, this Prince of Peace. "He will be named," we just sang these words, "Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. His dominion will be vast, and its prosperity will never end. He will reign on the throne of David and over his kingdom to establish and sustain it with justice and righteousness from now on and forever. The zeal of the Lord of armies will accomplish this." So this is the hope that the Hebrew people held on for centuries and centuries, 7 centuries before Jesus showed up on the scene, that the Messiah will look like this strange light that enters into a dark world. And light entering in darkness means what? God essentially is telling them, you're going to see it. It's going to make a splash. It's going to be bright in darkness. When you're in darkness and a light comes on, your eye goes immediately to that light. God says, you're going to see it because, and they did. What happened next was a little bit unexpected though, because the light that came, it sure was light, but it was not just a mere human light. It was different. It was different than just like a great human person, a great intellectual person, or a great moral person, a great loving person. It was a strange light that came with the person of Jesus Christ. It was strange. It was a strange light that Jesus' followers said, no, this light is the light of God himself. And this is how John, perhaps Jesus' closest disciple, characterized it. This is how he talked about it. Saying this light, it's not just mere human light. This is light of God. He put it like this in John chapter 1. He starts off his gospel with it. He says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were created through him, and apart from him, not one thing was created that has been created. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. And that light shines in the darkness, and yet the darkness did not overcome it. And then skipping down a few verses, John is speaking of Jesus, and he says this, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We observed his glory, the glory of the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and full of truth. We saw him glorious. His glory came into this unglorious world, and it was strange. It was a strange light. John told us that Jesus is this strange light, not just a human light. It's a light that the darkness couldn't comprehend, couldn't quite wrap their heads around or swallow up. John is saying, human lights, those ones, they get snuffed out all the time, but this Jesus light, it was different. It was strange. And we find that John not only noticed this in his experience with Jesus, but he actually highlights how Jesus himself clarified this for his followers. Jesus actually did it like this when he was speaking to the crowds. Just one time, he just leads out with this statement. Imagine just leading out with this statement. Jesus spoke to them and said, I am the light of the world. Anyone who follows me will never walk in the darkness, but will have the light of life. This is the advent of Jesus Christ, this coming of this strange light into the world that no one had quite seen before. He changed things and inaugurated a movement of humility, inaugurated a movement of love that had not even been imagined up to this point, that love and humility could look like this and work like this and actually be that which is the foundation of a kingdom. He was quite a strange light indeed. And this strange light came, died on the cross, was resurrected and ascended back to heaven, but he did say that he would come back. A few days before he went to the cross, he let his disciples, he let them know about this plan, that he would be leaving them, but that he would come back. And when he did come back, he would bring such an overwhelming and incredible amount of light that it would do away with darkness forever. All sickness, all death, all war, anything that could be characterized as darkness, he says, when I come back, that is going to get cast out. And he actually talked about it as this crazy light event that would happen. In Matthew chapter 24, he's talking about it with his disciples right before he went to the cross and was killed, and he would soon be resurrected and then ascended back to heaven. And so he's trying to give them a heads up as what to do in the meantime, because he's saying people are going to be looking for me and looking for this light to come back into the world, and so I need to let you know what to look for. And so he tells them, if anyone tells you then, see, here is the Messiah, he's come back over here, do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will arise and perform even great signs and wonders to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. So take note, I'm telling you this in advance. So if they tell you he's over here in the wilderness, don't go out. Or see, he's over there in the storerooms, don't believe it. For as lightning comes, this is light, as lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. This is how Jesus talked about himself. So this is how I'm going to come. You're going to see this huge light event when I came back. And so we have this strange thing that's happening now where we have this coming Messiah that has been prophesied in Isaiah. He shows up, and then he leaves. And Isaiah said that he's going to rule forever, but then he's gone. It's a very strange thing. So I'll come back in the future. And so we're tempted to think maybe that this is how it works. Maybe forever starts then. So maybe that's exactly how. So I have a timeline here on a slide for you. I'm going to throw it up. We'll put the first slide up here on the, okay, here we go. So we have this strange light that's predicted that Isaiah does 700 years before Jesus shows up. And then we have this strange light showing up that was talked about in Jesus, let's say 0 BC or 80. Probably just should have put 0 there, am I right? Just 0, okay? And then we have this strange light will come again one day. We're not really sure when that's going to be. That presents a little bit of a problem for us, that Christ has prophesied light to come. He has come in the light. Christ will come again as a light. But do you see a problem? There's this big gap, and let's go to the next slide here. Yeah, here we go. There's us in 2025 AD. I had to put it somewhere, okay? I don't know when, with reference to us, Jesus be coming back, okay? But we have this darkness gap, right? That Jesus has gone back up to heaven, and so the light has left. And so we're in this little bit of a pickle. Or are we? Because I have one more scripture passage for you, and this comes from Paul's letter to the Philippians. Paul was writing to a group of Christians in Philippi a few decades after the death, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus. Jesus still hadn't come back then, just like he hasn't come back today. And he was encouraging them to love one another, and to do so, he pointed to the strange light of Jesus. He said, remember what Jesus was like in this beautiful Christian hymn, which is all about Jesus coming down in humility to love us. But then he says something very interesting with regards to the light as he continued to encourage them to love one another. And he put it like this. Chapter 2, verse 14, he says, now y'all do everything without grumbling and arguing, so that you may be blameless and pure, children of God who are faultless in a crooked and perverted generation. And here's the light statement, among whom you shine like stars in the world by holding firm to the word of life. There's that light language. And what does it mean? It means that this darkness gap actually has been filled. He's let them know that Jesus' followers, they've actually become that strange light in this world to one another, to those outside of their Christian circles. So that means that it updates our slide like this. I have a third one here. There it is. Jesus' followers actually function as this strange light as he is up in heaven now. Now this is very, very, very interesting to talk about Advent time. Because we have the coming of Christ, prophesied about. He will come. And then he did come. And then he's going to come again in the future. But tonight what we really want to do by unpacking the theme of peace is really examine the question of, hold up a sec. The scriptures let us know that the advent of Christ is almost still happening. He is still here in his people and through his people in the world. It's a very, very incredibly important chapter of Advent. And so the question is, well, how exactly can this be possible? How exactly can his people be this strange light in the world? Right before he was crucified, Jesus told his disciples, he says, guys, I'm leaving. They're understandably alarmed. Their first question, who's going to be the strange light if you're gone, Jesus? What's gonna come to pass if this strange light leaves us, if it leaves this earth? But Jesus told them, no. When I leave, I'm going to send my Holy Spirit to be present within you all, each of you. And he's going to empower you to do strange light things just like I've been doing these past 3 years that you've been with me. In fact, the things that I'm going to inspire through my Spirit in you to do are even going to go beyond some of the things that I've been doing. There's more strange light that's going to come to this world through you. I'm still adventing through my followers. It's the craziest chapter of Advent I think there is. And I'm really excited to lean into it this year with you all over these next 3 weeks because I've had so many Advents where we're looking at baby Jesus. Baby Jesus is great. Who doesn't love baby Jesus, okay? Okay, sorry. I mean, baby Jesus is great. And maybe even some that might be like, hey, yeah, let's look forward ahead of time when Jesus comes back and just like fixes everything. But what about an Advent that really rolls up our sleeves and looks at, hold up, Jesus is bringing light into this world right now through his people. What might that mean? What might that do? There's just something about people that can set them apart when they're following Jesus. Am I right? Maybe some of you have experienced a strange light from someone you've met in the past. There's something about that person that just set them apart. They're just a little bit strange. Like a good strange, I can't really wrap my head around that kind of strange that they were. Or maybe even a friend or two that you have right now. Like that person is just, they're glowing in a way. They're strange. It's an attractive glow. I'm not exactly sure what I think about it. And maybe you've discovered that they were a Christian. And it's made you ponder, could that be what's about them that's setting them apart? Is that actually what it is? Is that why they seem more hopeful, more peaceful, more joyful, more full of love? Is that what was happening? Perhaps that's even why you're here tonight. Could it be just this Jesus thing that is actually happening inside of this person that's making them glow in this strange way? This Advent season is going to be the perfect season to press into that question, because it gives us the opportunity to examine this strange light of Jesus through a few different lenses of reality, is what we'll call them. So this hope, this peace, this joy, this love, they are realities. They're not mere notions. For instance, like love isn't some mere like feeling or affection. It's a real bond between people that makes them do and say crazy, crazy things. Like, for instance, I'm 100% certain that my wife is better than the 4 billion other women on the face of the planet. That's crazy, right? That's crazy. But there's a real reality bond of love between me and this woman that makes me completely convinced of that. Okay, these are realities that are present within us that inform how we glow and shine and move about in the world, our dispositions, our attitudes, and everything. And so we're going to have the chance to kind of lean into these together. It should be really fun, you know? And so what we're going to ask tonight is, how is the strange light of Christ refracted through the lens of peace to shine through his people as stars in the world? That's what we're going to look at here. Because peace is a nice word, and when we hear it, our minds typically conceive of things that are so far reduced and watered down of the notion of peace that we have here present in these scriptures. And so therefore kind of this notion of Prince of Peace, this word that gets attached to this Messiah, we can kind of miss it and misunderstand what Jesus Christ was really all about when it came to peace. Sometimes when we hear peace, we think things like tranquility, calmness, absence of conflict, or absence of war. These may be some of the results of peace, but they aren't exactly the things that the Prince of Peace focused on as his strange light walked among us. When we read the Gospels, which recount the strange light of Jesus Christ, like we don't find this silent, tranquil, calm figure who makes a habit of staying out of the fray. We actually find quite the opposite, that his strange light seemed to bring tension and arguments and disagreements just about everywhere he went. When he entered his ministry, we find this Prince of Peace doing things like shouting from mountaintops, shouting along plains, proclaiming judgments against the present rulers of the day, and not just from like afar off, but like he'd go to their city, their capital city of Jerusalem, and do it in their courts. He would send his followers out into the world 2 by 2 for a stint, and when he did, he let them know, hey, your association with me is going to mean some tumultuous times for you, and towns are going to just kick you out, and communities are going to disown you. That's what's coming for you. Jesus knew there were people who had beef with him, and he would go to their doorsteps. He'd make a habit of a rhythm of going back to Jerusalem several times where people hated him. He stirred up these arguments and disagreements. His presence even inspired riots. So this is all to say that this Prince of Peace caused quite the ruckus. You know, yet he was a strange light that people couldn't stop looking at. Now, before you think that I'm saying that his followers are people that cause a ruckus, because that's not what I'm saying. Let me tell you how these actions of Jesus are not just in accordance with the Hebrew notion of peace, but they actually stem directly from it, because the Hebrew notion of peace, you'll recognize the word, comes from a concept called shalom. In fact, anywhere in the Old Testament that you see the word peace, this word shalom is likely behind it. And the best way to understand it is that it's more than an absence of conflict, but it refers to the complete harmony, the complete unity of a society. Like the complex networks and relationships that are part of a society. Shalom really captures the idea of all of them being woven together and functioning beautifully. But relationships between people, between places, between things, all working together harmoniously in this network to bring about human flourishing in such a way that's incredibly so beautiful, you can't look away from it. In a community, city, nation, the scope could be huge, it could be really small. It's used kind of in a lot of ways. But you could say that shalom is a lot like a tapestry that's being woven together. Okay, with thousands, maybe millions of strands, but they come together to complement one another and create this beautiful and unified picture, each part contributing its own piece to the tapestry while also supporting the strands that go through it and are above and below it. You see, there's this very big picture of a tapestry that is at play with shalom, that you have these individual strands contributing to this beautiful, beautiful picture that perhaps is on this tapestry. But in a tapestry, even when just one thread comes loose out of that tapestry, what happens is the other threads lose support. They lose the tension that was needed there to hold them firm and strong. And so some of them will fall out, which in turn makes other fall out. And before long, you have this cascading effect where the entire tapestry will unravel. And the band Weezer understood this dynamic. Anybody? Weezer? If you want to destroy my sweater, hold this thread as I walk away. Watch me unravel, I'll soon be naked, lying on the floor. I've come undone. Weezer understood it. They understood it. You feelers in the room can feel it. Shalom is lost. And reading through the first few chapters in the scriptures actually can be pretty confusing. But if you read through them with this notion of shalom on the forefront of your mind, a lot of it can actually begin to make sense and come to life. Because in Genesis chapter 1 and 2, God creates everything, and he weaves this beautiful tapestry together where everyone and everything is relating to each other in just such perfect harmony and beauty, like God and man, God and animals, God and plants, man and wife together. It's like they together have this beautiful, joyful work in the garden that isn't hard, but only fulfilling. Can you imagine that? The Genesis chapter 2 even ends with the man and his wife were both naked and not ashamed. It's like a very truly beautiful, beautiful picture that's present here. But in the next chapter, we find they're tempted to rebel against God with a lie. Satan, the accuser, he appears as a snake. And what's his accusation? That God doesn't want what's best for them. He says God doesn't want what's best for you guys. He's actually keeping stuff and holding stuff back from you. And they believe that lie, and they try to do life on their own. And it's then and there that everything just completely falls apart. They immediately feel naked and ashamed. That's the first thing that happens. Their sweaters have come undone. They hide from each other. They hide from God. And God shows up and lets them know all the ways this tapestry now has begun to become unraveled and become undone, that shalom has now been lost. So marriage is no longer going to be this free giving back and forth between people, but now it's going to be marked by power plays. Now it's going to be marked by manipulations. Childbirth is now going to be painful, difficult, even dangerous. Work, too, instead of being fulfilling and rewarding, will be marked by frustration, difficulty. Now they're always going to feel like they're just barely getting by. God, in his grace, kills some animals to weave them sweaters to cover their naked shame, but it's clearly a concession, not the ideal that's going on. And over the next 8 chapters in Genesis, we see the tapestry of creation fall completely apart. By the end of Genesis chapter 11, all of humanity is lying naked on the floor. But in chapter 12, we see something, hope. We see hope come in, that God, as a master weaver, he's embarking on a new project to weave the tapestry together again. And to do that, he has started with a man named Abraham. He says, Abraham, I'm going to bless you, and through you, all the nations on earth will be blessed. We're going to start on a sweater project again to bring it back and put it all together. And everyone is going to find shalom again. That's the great hope that is kicked off with Abraham. And the Old Testament scriptures give us a window into the tapestry God was creating on the loom, how it was still thwarted by human corruption and rebellion, but how one day he'll send this figure called the Prince of Shalom, we read about, who will bring the strange light of shalom to the small people group and then the entire world as a result, so that humanity might flourish and function beautifully in relationships with God, one another, the earth, plants, animals, that picture that we all want to see of earth. That's what this Prince of Shalom is up to. And as we've talked about it, this strange light of shalom is meant to shine through his people now, after Jesus has come and left, as stars in the world. And it's a strange light of shalom, and it's been shining now for 2,000 years. This is the most remarkable thing. It's been shining for 2,000 years beautifully. Because do you know what's amazing about this tapestry that Paul's writing about here in Philippians, that the people of God are shining as stars? Do you know what's amazing about this tapestry? It truly is weaving the entire human race together in beauty. All tribes, all tongues, all nations are finding unity through the gospel of Jesus Christ. This shalom is it's one of the most beautiful things about Christianity, and it's very, very unique because in Christianity, not all the strands have to get dyed the same color. All the other major religions, you have an inherently cultural aspect to them that cannot be extracted. Islam, for instance, God is considered Arabic, and to worship him is to learn the language of Arabic. Hinduism, for example, one clearly has to adopt the culture of India to really understand it and step in it. Not so Christianity. The gospel of Jesus Christ can be as a seed planted in any culture and then grow and manifest in that culture with the artifacts of that culture. It's remarkable. And what's more remarkable is as that happens, and you have these different cultures expressing the gospel of Jesus Christ in different strange, light, beautiful ways, they come together in unity. And the hostilities that are present between ethnicities and races actually dissolve when they come together. It's very strange. It shouldn't be that way because they're still utterly distinct, but then they find incredible unity among one another. It's the most beautiful thing about Christianity, that it tears down the walls of hostility between ethnicities. In the New Testament, Jesus' original project, the Jesus Way, started as a Jewish movement, and it quickly exploded into the Roman culture. And these were two ethnicities that did not get along. They did not get along in the least. But with Jesus and the gospel message, they did. With Jesus and the gospel message, they shared everything with one another. They had everything in common with one another. They had an intense love and sacrifice for one another. This truly is one of those beautiful things about this Prince of Shalom, weaving this tapestry together. It truly is a strange light. A beautiful tapestry has been made over these last 2,000 years. Now, there's a reasonable objection that goes like this, a very reasonable objection that goes like this. Sure, I hear you. But I'm also aware of people in Jesus movements historically, today, in history and today, who have said they were following Jesus, but when we look back and examine it, shalom wasn't manifested in the least. In fact, we could say quite the opposite was there. There was less unity, less beauty, less flourishing. And that's a really good objection and question. And how can we be certain that Jesus followers are manifesting his strange light and not something else? That's a big question. It's a really important question, and I just have a few things to look for. It's a tricky question to kind of navigate through and try to discern and feel out. But I have two things that you can look for to try to begin to wrestle with it as you come into communities. And you're asking the question, is that the strange light of Jesus? Is that? Or is that some other light altogether? The first thing to look for is if the community appears to be centered on the central act of God coming down into the world to make peace with humans by way of the cross. If this is the big focus of that community, there's a good chance that the strange light that's shining through them is the strange light that put himself up on the cross. Because groups do exist that are actually more excited about inspiring cultural change or political changes, or you could even say world peace, rather than the fact that the strange light of Christ showed up to bring peace between God and humanity, and he succeeded. And it's that which extends and brings life to all of us. Do you see that? Jesus Christ, in his time on earth, he sidestepped the political fray. He did. There's so many political factions and movements where that in the streets and the towns that he walked, and they're present in the gospel accounts. Time after time, he's assailed with them. Time after time, he like Neo dodges them like bullets. He's like, nope, not that one, not that one. Jesus said, I'm not getting into that. This is what I'm all about. This is what the strange light is all about. And the strange light was focused on this with regards to shalom. And communities following him and imitating his strange light. Keep that main thing the main thing. Second, you'll know if you've encountered the strange light of Christ and his people when it's utterly marked by humility. Humility. When you come into contact with a person who's just happy to function as any thread in the greater tapestry that Jesus is putting together, that's a strange light person. I don't care what it is, but if I'm in his kingdom, working for him, and he's by my side, that's where I'm happy. That's a strange level of humility. Someone who's put aside their personal pursuits, put aside their personal preferences. They've humbled themselves to the plan of this master weaver. How do we know this? Because that's exactly what Jesus did. Jesus actually, the night when he went to the cross, he spent some time in the Garden of Gethsemane. And he was in deep anguish. He's crying out to God the Father. He says, Father, if there's any way that I cannot do this, I'd love an out right now. I'd love an out. God the Father looks at him and says, no, this is your part in the tapestry. He was in such anguish, he sweat blood is what we're told. But he accepts it. He humbles himself to his part in the tapestry. What a strange, strange light. And so God is knitting this sweater back together again. Those are the two things. But God is, and now let's move to just how God is knitting this sweater back together again. He does have this grand tapestry on the loom, you could say. He's weaving it together beautifully, but he's knitting it through his people now. He's knitting it through us. Jesus said in his famous Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the peacemakers, the shalom makers, for they shall be called sons of God. So the invitation then goes out to everyone. Because of what Jesus has done on the cross to create shalom between God and humanity, all are invited to partake in this great shalom project. It says everyone can come along to this, is what the New Testament scriptures are letting us into, that we're invited to shine like stars of shalom in the world. It's fascinating. And this is why there's so much unity in the midst of diversity in this, as we see not just like from church to church happen, but even just within a single local church. What you have is a bunch of people coming together in this shalom-making project. And these are people that are utterly different from one another. They couldn't be more different in some instances. And yet what we see take place is they come together, and with these people who they'd never picked to be their friend in 100 years, they become incredibly meaningful, close friends. That's shalom happening in real time. That's a strange light happening. They've chosen to be friends with one another, and they're deep friends, not necessarily because of any hobbies they have, but because of the common bond they share in Christ. And they actually learn at so well at this new hobby of sharing this common bond in Jesus Christ, something really weird happens. Then they start pursuing all these other hobbies together too. It's like, I never thought that person would run a mile. Now they're running the Seattle Marathon last week? What are you talking about? They start to pursue these things together and enjoy one another and find deep and meaningful friendship because they have majored on this hobby of pursuing this strange light together and letting it shine through them. And all of a sudden, it's like all of life is opened up to them. It's the most beautiful thing ever as God is knitting this sweater back together again and using his people to do it. So if you're on the outside looking in, if you're intrigued by the strange light of Jesus that shines through his people as stars in the world, we're so glad you're here. That was each one of us. What I would say is just keep on coming back and being around that strange light. Keep on brushing close with those strange light people. Keep on hearing about this God who did a strange, massive light thing to be with you and to relate with you and to extend life to you so that you might be able to experience this shalom begin to rub off in your own life. That's the best thing you can do if you're on the outside looking in. Just keep on showing up. Now, say that you have made the decision to let the strange light of Jesus flow to you and through you by way of his Holy Spirit. The question really for us then does become, how are you to know when it's flowing through you? Like, how are you to know that? Because Jesus was actually concerned with this very much. He actually talked about it in his Sermon on the Mount. He put it like this. So, I mean, if you are debating whether Jesus, the light of the world, if it really is true that his people are the lights of the world, look at what he says here in Matthew chapter 5, verse 14. He starts like this: you are the light of the world. Okay, it's pretty clear. I guess Jesus thought that we were supposed to be his stars shining in the world. You are the light of the world, a city situated on a hill. It cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand. And it gives light for all who are in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. So it's a really fascinating kind of notion of how Jesus talks about how we're to be lights in the world. What is he not saying? He's not saying you better muster up the light. He's not saying you better do your best and roll up your sleeves and shine strangely in this world. Here's a list of strange ways to shine. Now go do them. No. He's saying the light is within you. Stop putting stuff in front of it that's blocking it. Get rid of that stuff. This is much more of get rid of the obstacles rather than go do the work kind of discussion that Jesus is having. And so it makes us ask the question, what are the baskets that we can put over the light? And sometimes you'll find in your life that, oh shoot, I've put that basket there, and it'll take it away. And you'll turn around, and a couple months later, you'll be like, oh shoot, that basket's there again. Get out of here, basket. So the Christian life, it could be reduced to just throwing baskets, is what I'm saying. So if you'd like to throw baskets, I actually have a couple in my office right now. We could take them out back and just throw them. Anyways, sorry. If we were a youth group, that's what we do. We throw some baskets. Okay, let's talk about these baskets. One basket might be the lonely individual pursuit of Jesus. You've decided that for one reason or another, perhaps a bad past experience, that church is just too awkward and too difficult. You'd like to pursue Jesus by yourself for a while and shine accordingly. And you're not wrong. Church can be awkward and it can be difficult. I won't say that you can't shine at all like that. But I will say that you won't shine anywhere near as brilliantly as you could. That might be how I'd say it. It's the gathering of God's people that come together and encourage one another, and we remind each other of what the strange light did and what he's doing, and we get to see it in one another, and we get to talk about how his strange light was shining through us, or how we felt like we were supposed to remove some baskets this week to let the light shine through us, and how it went, and we come back together and we lick our wounds together, or we celebrate together if it went well, and that is a refining of the light that makes it shine so much more brilliantly than just doing it by yourself. It's the basket of lonely Christianity, and there's so many reasons, and I understand so many reasons why people decide to go down that path. But Jesus is inviting us, come back together. See if you can do it together, because in that you may find life again. Is it going to be a little bit awkward? Absolutely. Will you perhaps rub against other people a little bit in some difficult ways? Perhaps. But it's so worth it for the result of your light shining in the world. Another basket that hides this strange light would be only to shine when and where you feel strong, or where your gifts, I guess you say, are, or your strengths is probably a better way to say it. What do I mean by this? Well, the strange light is not just any light, because all of us have light within us that's really tied to our natural dispositions and strengths. Like we would say that every human being has incredible things that they can do and light things that are part of their life, and the question becomes, but is that the strange light? It's one type of light to act in accordance with your own strengths. For instance, I can be a very organized person. I can be really good at identifying what's wrong, what needs to be fixed. Those are strengths of mine that I've always had. And so me organizing and refining something might just be regular light instead of strange light. You see that? It might just be regular light. And I can do that all day, every day, without the help of Jesus. Like that's what I do. You know, I love doing that. The strange light doesn't act necessarily in accordance with your strengths, though. It actually often operates through your weaknesses. It actually often operates contrary to your natural dispositions. This strange light might be difficult to identify within yourself sometimes, but it's easier to see in someone you know really well, or you could ask someone who knows you really well, like, when have you seen this strange light shining through me? For instance, there's another pastor here named Dave, okay? There's another pastor here named Dave. I know him really well. And I know that he has this intense desire for uniqueness and adventure and new ideas and new experiences, and he just really values like new ways to just like express himself in the world and these ideas that are flying everywhere, you know. But for him to do the same thing, he started this church 11 years ago, and him to do the same thing week in and week out is strange. It's really, knowing my friend Dave, that's really strange. He wants to try new things and new things of expression. But Sideris, for the most part, has been the same for 11 years, and kind of how we exhibit ourselves. And like Sunday morning, 2 songs, 4-minute conversation, a sermon, 3 songs. We've been doing that a long, long time. That's the strange light of Christ shining through Dave. How many times does he want to change it? I don't know. Somehow he keeps them all to himself. I don't know how he does it. So that's really what I'm talking about here, letting the strange light of Christ shine through you. So, for example, you might be really strong, you could say introvert. Letting the light of Christ shine through you in a strange way might be to go and say yes to social situations and show up with a really open mind, open heart, open eyes for people who need someone to talk to. That would be the strange light of Christ for you. For those of us who are extroverts, might be going to sit by yourself for a little bit, or when you show up to a party, don't talk to everybody, you know. Some of us struggle. Me, I struggle. Okay, so that's the other basket here. The basket that is really just the obstacle of us always wanting to just operate in our strengths. Sometimes we need to operate in our weaknesses. That's exactly when the light of Christ can shine through us. Then there's this third basket. I call it a relational basket that we can put in front of us. Do our church friends and our non-church friends mix at all? And that could be from the level of like, do you talk to your non-church friends about your Jesus friends? Or do you invite everybody around the same table ever? Would you ever post a somewhat, you could call it, corny church social media post? Would you ever put that on your social media page? You know, like, so if you answered no to all of those things, you might have a relational basket that's in between your light, the light of Christ shining in you in the world. So desperately needs to see it. Remember, Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. A city situated on a hill cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand. It gives light for all who are in the house." People in the house need light to see. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works, glorify your Father in heaven. So we wish you a wonderful Advent. Come back, you early adopters, in the coming weeks for how the strange light of Christ can manifest in joy and in love. I'm really excited for these next two. It's going to be super fun. The strange light was prophesied to come. The strange light did come. The strange light said he was coming back, and then we discover that the strange light said that we're the lights in the meantime. What does it mean to live like that's true, this season at least? We're going to be considering that and contemplating it together. So glad you're along for the ride. Thanks for being here. Let's pray, and the band will come up and lead us in a few more songs to close us out.